What up? What up? Ibn Web, Quran and some here. Got another official situation going down here. Essex County all day. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm on right now, for this moment. And actually, very appreciative of this man that's about to just jump on here. Some say he's one of the best to ever come through Belleville High School. You know, extraordinary athlete, great man. Looking forward to just actually meeting him for the first time. I've read about him and everything else as well too. You know, John Alvarado, like I said, to the stories that I heard, and you know, whether it's from reporters or just people in the know. So, like I said, just looking forward to just talking to him and do what we do here. So, just gonna pull him in, and we're gonna rock from there. There we go.
All right. How are you?
Not bad. Yourself?
I'm good, thank you. I appreciate you having me join you.
Nah, I appreciate you just giving me the time here, man. Like I said, this has just been like a very, very like humbling and just kind of appreciative experience for me, man. Just kind of something I just out of the whim just decided to do, and like I said, it took a life of its own. So, like I said,
great stuff.
And I had a wish list, and that wish list is probably as long as probably from, you know, up North Jersey down to South Jersey, man. So we'll see if one day I get through it. I'm just a big sports fan, and obviously particularly when we're talking about Jersey, and then narrow that even down Essex County. So where we're from, man. So like I said, I'm just a diehard, man. So like I said, I appreciate you just taking the time out.
Anytime. Even in the future, if you have questions or you know, just input on something, just reach out to me. I'm all ears.
Definitely. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, for myself, my wife, we go out places and if I meet somebody that I knew from years ago, and we start talking about football, and she walks off. She leaves.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, she leaves because she knows that it's a lost cause.
Yeah,
I could sit there all night, and I'm like an encyclopedia with, you know, this guy's name, that guy's name, stats, that kind of stuff. So especially around my time when I played, you know, it's having the pleasure of watching some really good guys. You know, Terrell Willis, obviously, that name comes. You know, yeah, Nutley. When I tell people that Nutley was a powerhouse and they would beat, you know, teams like St. Joe's of that caliber, they don't believe me. They don't believe me.
Yeah.
And you know, it's you know, they're beating Hackensack. And we had, when we played them, we tied them, and but it's like the records don't count. Like they say that about Don Bosco.
Yeah, you throw them out the window. Yeah.
Yep. You know, where my sons they went to Don Bosco, and when Don Bosco plays Bergen Catholic, the records go out the window, and it's the truth. It is. And but you know, more importantly, just the memories, and that's why when I was excited, I'm very, very excited to be here, because when you say, hey, you know, I told my wife, I'm doing a podcast, and it's you know, it's related to high school football and Essex County in particular. You know, so for me, it brings back a lot of memories. And even, you know, it's funny, Vito Campanelli, who I'm friends with, Vito's at Bergen Catholic.
Right.
Phenomenal human being. Outside of football, he's a class act. You know, he really runs his programs wherever he was, high caliber, high moral. I'm not just saying this, I'm friends with him. If I never met the man, you just say how he carries himself, the family he comes from.
Yeah.
Now, him and I and his family, we have a history. And I guess looking back, you know, I could say now it's a positive history, but at one time it wasn't, because Vito and is from Fairlawn, so he played for Fairlawn. So myself and my buddies, we played against Vito 7th and 8th grade, and he went to Paramus Catholic, I believe 10th and 11th from 12th. Yes, 10th. I don't know where he was his freshman year. And his father, Mike, who, you know, he from what Vito's youngest brother, head coach at DePaul, Nick Campanelli. When I met Nick, and because he was a lot younger than us, he never met me. And then when I met him, he met my son Jonathan, who was at Seton Hall Prep at the time. And he says, "Are you related to a John Alvarado?" And he said, "Oh man," that guy was this, he was that. And
yeah.
So when I met him, he didn't know it was me. And I said, "How you doing?" I says, "My name is John." He says, "My name is Nick." And then we're just talking. He had no idea who I was. And then we're talking. And I said to him, he says, "Where are you from?" I said, "Well, I grew up in Belleville." He says, "What's your name?" And I told him. He said, "Oh my God." He says, "My father loved you." And I remember, I think it was the last game. It might have been in my junior. I think it was the last game, the last time we played TC. And Mike Campanelli came up to me and he put his arm. He's like, "I love you, kid. You're one of the toughest SOBs." And I like a coach like that. I like a coach, who is just a very hard nosed, and that's what he was.
Right.
I got another funny story. Now, when Nunzio was recruiting my youngest son, my youngest boy, he had an offer from Ash, and so we were talking, and then he told the story to my middle son Jonathan and Nicholas, my youngest.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "When I played your father, I was a sophomore, your dad was a senior, and they lined me up at wideout, and Nunzio intercepted the pass, and I just came out of nowhere and I cleaned his clock."
Yeah.
I got on top of him, and I did a few extracurricular activities.
Of course.
And I said a few choice words to him, and he just says, he says, so in the film, I said to my father, I says, "Dad, look what that Alvarado's doing," and he says, "I love it." He says, "You all should play like that."
Mm-hmm.
So, coming from, I think not only from Belleville, but just that area alone, and the roots run deep, not only in Belleville.
Mm-hmm.
I was coached in college. I was coached by Keith Hunter, who played at Barringer,
right,
and phenomenal football player, great coach, but he was a tough guy, and I responded to that. Some guys didn't like that, but seeing, talking to him from how he grew up, it's very similar. Blue collar background, just a tough guy. He's the type of guy that he'll go behind the bleachers and he's like, "All right, let's go. This is how it's going to be settled." And he played with a chip on his shoulder because Coach Hunter wasn't the fastest guy, wasn't the most talented. So I think he wasn't as highly touted. He had the opportunity to play for Hayden Fry at Iowa. He played with Norm Granger. He played with Andre Tippett.
Right.
Andre Tippett, believe it or not, now here's another connection. It kind of, like I said, it runs deep. Andre Tippett's son, Cody, plays with my middle son at Rhode Island.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and he himself's a great football player, obviously. So, and then just being around people like that, you can appreciate that. I think he appreciated the style of football that I played, and because Belleville, at Belleville, we weren't the biggest, we weren't the fastest by any stretch, but we were tough.
Right.
And when I think Belleville had that reputation, especially through the '80s, the early '80s, and with Coach Sineski, they were just hard-nosed type kids. Where coming to whether we went there or you came to our house, you were in for a fight, and it was. We knew we were outmatched. I mean, there were a few teams like Greg Toll's hack and sack teams. Oh, well coached, well everything. They were just a well-oiled machine. But for the most part, when you went there, you looked at it. It's a small team. It's like, okay, we're gonna, the paper would say, okay, well, we're gonna blow them out, but you might beat us, but you might not be going to school on Monday.
Right.
And I think that was Coach Mike Campanelli. He knew. He's like, "All right, we're going to Belleville." He's like, "Some of you guys might be taking Excedrin the next day. You're going to have to call out on Monday because you need ice baths for the next 2 days." So, when I think of Essex County football, the image that I always paint, it's the hard nosed. It's like the typical. I don't know if you remember, a picture of like Dick Butkus or Mike Singletary, where they're muddy, their hands are bloody
and all that. Yeah,
that's Essex County football.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's
I
right.
think
That's right.
especially in the lower part of Essex County, is Newark, Belleville, Bloomfield. You know, even the kids that go off to the private schools, you know, even Chet Polavecchio's generation, they're just tough guys.
That's right.
They're just tough guys. Yeah, and the Newark schools, same thing. I mean, you're in a football game,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, so that's a sense of pride. So when you started this, and it was Essex County, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then people are putting names of this guy and that guy and the old Montclair teams, of course, you know, powerhouses, you know, of course. And it says, wow, so I remember that guy. Oh, I remember that.
It's pretty. Yeah, it's turned out to be pretty cool, man. Like I said, and you on that list as well too. Let me just for a sec, just take you back, for even
Absolutely.
back before high school. Where all this start from? Like you from Belleville, raised in Belleville?
Originally, so my family originally my mother was born in Newark. My father was born in Puerto Rico, and then he came here, lived in Irvington, lived in Newark. They met. So we moved to, I wasn't born, but when my brothers were small, they moved to Scotch Plains.
Okay.
And my second oldest brother, they were all athletes, but my second one, he played football. Mm. But even before that, my grandfather, he was a standout player at Dickinson High School. Okay. And so I got turned down to football at a young age by him. And, you know, when he played, the arch nemesis was St. Peter's Prep. And at Roosevelt Stadium, they get, I think one time, Thanksgiving, they had 15,000 fans in the early 40s. And when my brother played, I wanted to follow his footsteps. And I just fell in love with the game. And then so my parents, they had, you know, they had some rough times. So we ended up in Belleville.
Okay.
I was around 10 at the time.
Okay.
And I couldn't wait. I just wanted to sign up for tackle football. And I remember my mother said to me, she says, you know, we can't, it's too late. I says, what do you mean? She says, well, we moved in too late and you had to register in the spring. I said, okay. So you signed me up for touch football.
Okay.
And did very well.
It wasn't tackle. It wasn't tackle though, huh?
No, I turned it into tackle. So there was a few times they asked me to cool off.
Yeah.
And so the following year I played, and I knew it was a new world because it was organized. You know, number one, there was a playbook, and they stuck me on the line. And so that was like 5th and 6th grade, and then 7th grade. I was also a defensive end. And my good friend of mine to this day, Mike Chitterell, another tough guy, he was the other defensive end. So we would just murder people, so to speak. In 8th grade, then they switched me to running back. Okay. And that's where I flourished. And then, freshman year, that's where I moved to safety. And for me, it was a nice transition. I liked being back there, but just watching the game, listening to the stories that my grandfather told, my brother. Yeah. And then coming here, and I remember when coming to Belleville, I'd go to the high school games, and we were privy to be on the sidelines with, sometimes we would help with the chains or whatever, and we'd be with like the opposing team. And I remember Belleville playing Seton Hall Prep, and to me, the players just looked, they were huge. They were just, they were big. Yeah. And, back then, Seton Hall Prep, they were tough. I remember one guy, John Backus, he always stood out in my mind. He was a standout football player at Seton Hall Prep. At that time, I didn't know a lot of the players. And
it was probably nothing like it, just being little league or young, just being on that field, whether you holding the chains or just surrounded. It had to be nothing like it, though.
Yeah, it was quite the atmosphere because, I never went to a Friday night game. A lot of people cheering, and I said, man, I really like this. I said, I really like this. This is pretty cool. And I said, hopefully someday I will be here. And, so for me, it was the love affair with football started at a young age, and I could tell you, I remember putting on my brother's helmet, shoulder pads. For me, that was, I just wanted to wear the equipment.
That's
yeah. Seeing the champion symbols, man, I want to wear that. And then finally being able to put the uniform on, playing for the junior Bucks. Had some good coaches, Coach DeRiggi, Earl Wake, who he himself, he was a stand-up football player in his day. Adam Pappas, just surrounded by some solid guys, but at the same time, tough guys. There was no, they were the type of guys that if you were going to cry, if you were going to dog it, as they would say, they just get off the field. And there was no, hey, can you please get off the field? They would say some words that, I was accustomed to, but nowadays maybe it might not fly.
Right.
So for me, that's the upbringing that I had and my teammates had. So
did you play any other sports, or it was just football? You was locked in, and that was pretty much it.
I wrestled and I played baseball, and when at a young age, I really put a lot into wrestling.
Okay.
I just found for myself with the weight cutting, I just concentrate on football, try to get as big as I possibly can, according to who I am, and or wrestle. A lot of people were not happy, I could tell you that, when I decided not to wrestle. Ran track when I got into high school. That helped. And that was a whole different animal in itself.
Yeah.
And, but it helped. It really did. It really, helped me on my form. But ultimately, it was football. I thought about not playing football, and that was very, very difficult. And there were a lot of people. And a lot of people, when I decided not to wrestle, people would say, "Oh, you got to run a 4.3. You got to do this. You got to do this."
Right.
I love the game, and it was.
Yeah, you can't put no 40 time on the love of the game. You can't at all.
Absolutely, and how fast is your 40? When I put my helmet in your chest, and I go through you. I mean, I don't think you running track. You want to be a track guy, or you want to be a football player. You can't.
Right.
I've been around the track guys, and they look fantastic in the uniform. They run very well. Wow, that guy's fast. Oh, he just got the ball. Oops, he's out of the game now. Okay, well, he's out of the game. the guy, because he knows how to run track. He doesn't know how to play football. But then you see the guy who's a 4.7, who's a 4.8 guy, and who's just a hard worker.
Right.
And it's like, the guy's a 1,000-yard rusher. And, I always loved those, and I still do. I always love those type of football players. To me, that's what football embodies. And when you look at just a lot of these, when you see these kids coming from this, even to this day from this area, like the kid Sicoli, who's from Bloomfield. He played, I think he's playing in the spring league. He's a blue collar kid. Coach Mike Carter does a great job over there, and he, he's a product of pretty much where I come from, where you come from. That's what I mean. When you have a kid, you don't have the high celebrated 5-star kid, but the attitude is 5-star in itself. And the kid, he's obviously made something for himself.
Right. Definitely. No, go ahead.
So, for me, it was just football. And I have no regrets. I can tell you that. I mean, I don't look back and say, well, I should have went out for I should have the chess club, or, maybe when I wasn't playing football, I should have played on tennis in the spring or whatever. No, everything I did was evolved around football. So, and
good stuff.
And it paid dividends because and I'm sure, as you know, especially all 3 years of varsity competition that I played, we played some very, very tough teams. Yeah,
that conference is tough, very tough.
Oh my God, it was every week was a fight. I mean, it was a fight, and even the worst team was there were no cakewalks. Let's just say that, and I wouldn't have it any other way. because, there's a lot of lessons to be learned when you're going against a Bergen Catholic or Don Bosco, and then they come into our area, and then we knock the hell out of them,
Mm-hmm.
and we show them who we are and where we're from. So
absolutely,
yeah.
Now so you played 3 years of varsity. You didn't play your freshman year. You started from sophomore year on up.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So freshman starting varsity, that especially and you didn't hear of too many freshmen starting. You heard of
True.
talk.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of I don't know if it was the coaches. I don't know the philosophy. To tell you the truth, me looking back, I wouldn't be able to handle it.
Yeah, physically, mentally, yeah. There's a lot goes into it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I just think like I said, the competition itself, freshmen get killed out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so when there was no guarantee that I was going to start my sophomore year, there was talk, around the weight room. I said, I'm just going to work my butt off, get strong, try to get as big as I can and just get ready for the season. And when the summer came around, I think I was the only sophomore at the time to crack the lineup.
Okay.
And we were heavy. We were senior heavy that year, the 1990 season. And in the scrimmages, I remember, Coach Sineski said, you're going to be playing safety and a little bit of. I was the backup quarterback, and I remember we scrimmaged East Hanover, and once again they were a tough team. Coach Sorrentino, Coach Tony Sorrentino Sr., who he ended up coaching me my last year in college. He was our DB coach. They had a phenomenal team, and I remember they put me in quarterback, and man, it was like going to the electric chair. I was so scared.
Yeah,
And my first snap, I fumbled the ball. Mm-hmm. And I went to grab the ball, and I remember one of the nose tackles. I almost broke my arm. And Sineski pulled me to the side, and he just says, we had Teddy Atlas, who was Mike Tyson's trainer, talk to us earlier in the week. He says, remember what Teddy Atlas said? He was like, you can do this. And and Artie Caruso was our starting quarterback. I wasn't capable of doing it. Not until later this season, until I was able to get my bearings. But I was a hell of a lot more comfortable on defense.
Defense, yeah.
Special teams, because when we were we scrimmaged Marist High School, and one of the it was a tri-scrimmage. It was us and it was, I think, Wayne Valley or Wayne Hills, and so we were doing the special teams part of it, and they were yelling, Alvarado, get out there, and I said, where do I go? And I lined up on the left as like a left end, and I got into like a 40-yard dash stance, and snap of the ball, I just flew in there, I dove, I blocked the punt, picked it up, and it was a touchdown, and my teammates went absolutely bananas, and I says, "Wow, this is pretty cool." So, first game we played Hackensack, and they beat us up pretty good.
Is that back when they had Rashidi Brown? Was he playing back then, or that was later on?
That was actually, so Rashidi was probably his brother Yakimo, who he was a good running back, but they were just a monster team. They had Randy Neal. Mm-hmm. They were just stacked and senior dominant team, and they came into Belleville and they gave us a good lumping. So it was a wake up call for us, because I think we were, maybe riding a little high, and it was a challenge for us. So I think the second game, so we're playing Bloomfield, and Coach Parlavecchio is still the coach in Bloomfield, and my buddy, who's the head coach now in Belleville, Jermaine Johnson.
Yeah.
He was a teammate of mine in college as well. He was a running back, and we were predicted just to get stomped, and I think they beat us 20-7. So they dropped back the punt, and I line up, boom, block the punt, pick it up, I run 40 yards. And it was my first varsity touchdown. And it was that was pretty cool, scoring in Foley Field. And my grandfather, when he was in high school, he played against Bloomfield. They beat him up, of course. And William Foley was the head coach back then.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It was Bloomfield. They were tough. That season they were tough. And I remember Jermaine came around. He came. It was like a sweep, and around the right side. I came up and I filled the gap and put a nice stick on him, and him and I had some words, and and then when we were playing together in college, he would always bring that up, and because there was always extracurricular activities in the bottom of the pile. So,
yeah, it's all right. Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, I tell my sons, I said, don't do what I did. He says, because you'll get.
Nowadays, yeah.
Yeah, don't put your picture in the post office. So it was that was a lot of fun. My sophomore year. We highlight of the season was when Don Bosco Prep, they ran a twin set with tight ends, and it was I think Rudy. One of the guys was the GM for the Texans. Both tight ends went to the NFL. I think Brian May was one of them. So they, Pete Hardeveld was the quarterback, and they were predicted to come into Belleville and just smoke us. And we beat them, and they went on to win a state title. I think they beat Queen of Peace in the finals, but it was good. So that goes back to that they're coming into our house, and the paper is, I don't know, 42-0.
Yeah,
because they're a powerhouse, and like I said, they would just run seam routes, and the guys were like 6'4" and 6'5" apiece, and I think they put myself and they put maybe John McAloon, and from what I can remember, and we would just knock the hell out of them, and we disrupted their game plan, and we, like I said, we beat at them. So that was one of the high points. I didn't have too many low points, regardless, if we had a winning record or not. Just every game was fun. It was just a lot of fun, and and they came, and then we went up there the following year. We beat them up there, and Bosco never beat us. So it was, but that senior year in particular was it was a good season, especially for the seniors, and it was good because I think the previous year, the seniors who were juniors at the time, the '89 season, they didn't have a good season, and I think we finished 5-4, I think, so for them it was a highlight. And when I see some of those seniors, and I see them out at a store, and like a friend of mine, Carmen Spina, who's a head baseball coach in Rutherford High School, he says, for me as a senior at the time, he says, there's you and some of the other sophomores, you really made that season memorable. You brought a lot of just energy. It was just a different energy that you brought to the team. And I said, listen, man, we just wanted to go out there and fly around and play football. And that's what we did.
Absolutely. So I know you get to your junior, senior, the accolades and all that individually start pouring in for you as well, too. I know you're one of the rare ones. I mean, obviously there's been a lot of them, but it's still rare. I mean, even I believe you were like first team county your junior year.
Yes. My sophomore year, I was third team all county. My teammate, my buddy, Jimmy Duhame, who went on to have a really good career at Southern Connecticut. He was our tight end. He was first team. And I made the Whirl press. I made first team defense, obviously. I made first team all area, first team all league, which, the NJIL Pacific Division was very tough.
Right.
so that was a big honor in itself. And yes, I made first team all county. I also, first team all league, first team all area, and I made first team all state coaches association, which that in itself, that's another high note in my high school career, because it speaks volumes. It's
from the coaches. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, sir. And I was one of, so that year I was one of 3 juniors. The other juniors, they were Tyrone Garland from Matawan and his teammate, Nebraska Baker, who were 2 insane athletes. I mean, incredible athletes. And, Terrell Willis, of course, made it. So you had a few, not many Essex County guys, but just guys from all over the state, from Atlantic City to High Point. That was, it was a highlight, but I knew I always had the attitude that, and this goes back to, like the humble beginnings and being around people like this. And I'm sure you can relate as well, that there's always work to be done.
That's right.
I can never be complacent. Like my father always says, complacency breeds contempt, and it breeds children. We ain't breeding children out there. So, but in football, if you get complacent in a sport like football, you're going to get hurt.
That's right.
There's no 2 ways about it. And, that not only that league, but in the county, even the small schools. If I went to a track meet, you see some of the Orange football players, you befriend them. You see some of the Shabads at the time, Clifford Scott guys. You see those guys, and they're big guys.
Right.
They're Group 1 or Group 2. I don't even know what group they were at the time. I think Shabads was Group 3, like us maybe. But they had some dudes. They were, Montclair had, they looked like a college team, some of those teams they had. So for me, it was, I says, I'm playing against guys like that. I says, wait a minute. I said, it's either, if I want to excel, I have to put my best foot forward and, just really hit the weights and get on that track, get on that field, do the drills, or not play. And if I play, I'm going to get hurt. So for me, it was always a humbling experience. And to tell you the truth, week in and week out, it was, whether you played Paramus or you played Paramus Catholic, or you scrimmaged Barringer, or it's like, okay, well, they're not that good. I says, listen, they got some dudes. They got, don't, just because the record doesn't reflect, they're going to go out there, we're going to scrimmage them, or we're going to play them, or they're going to beat us up. So it's either them or us. So, with that type of mindset, I think we were able to hang with a lot of teams, and even the toughest teams. And we all worked hard. We had a set group of guys. The majority of the team always worked hard in the weight room. Coach Sineski was always there. And, just the coaching staff at Belleville at the time, they really made some, we were close with them. We were. And, Coach Sineski was a teacher in the school. Coach Dambola, God rest his soul, Joe Dambola, he was also a teacher in the school. So on a daily basis, we would see him in class, in the hallway. Hey, this school's going to come see you, or, you're going to, we're going to be working on this in the weight room. Even outside, even off the field and outside of the school, with the FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, with Coach Sineski, which was always fun. They would do the, inspiration and perspiration, as I call it, like a Bible study. And afterwards, we'd play volleyball, we'd play basketball. Yeah. And that always, you got a bunch of kids from Belleville and from the surrounding area. So that always turned into, that was more like, it was like bumper basketball. It was,
bumper, yeah.
Oh, it was.
Nah, good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
It's but my senior year, junior year was a lot of fun. That was fun. But my senior year was when Coach Sineski, he had told us, he says, listen, we got the toughest schedule in the state. And then he told us who we're playing, and then he said, all right, well, what's new? It's like, okay. we're ready for it. We're going to go out there and we're just going to do our best. And, but like I said, it was, there was no time that you can say, you know what, I'm going to take it easy this week. I'm not going to lift, or I'm not going to go to bed. I'm going to go to bed late. Because we're playing, X team. So no, it was, we got Bergen Catholic, and we got St. Joe's, then we got Paramus, then we got Paramus Catholic. And then, we're going to scrimmage Bloomfield. We're going to scrimmage this team. We're going to scrimmage Scotch Plains. And they were tough. It was.
Sound like it. Definitely sound like it.
Yeah. But it definitely, the one thing I tell, even with my son's friends and my sons, the one thing that even I remember Coach Hunter, he would say, he says, football will take you places that other people are not going to go, meeting people that you may not have met, different backgrounds, different cultures, so to speak. But ultimately it's the life lessons that it teaches you, because you're not always riding high. You're not always going to win. You're not always going to be that guy. And I learned that from going from high school to college. And I played at Montclair State for.
Now, before you get to Montclair State, before you get there, this how was just even obviously talk about your senior year and everything, were the decisions to be made about going to schools, or did things how was that whole experience as far as deciding what college to go to? Did you, I know decisions had to be made, whether it's family related or just personally, or what you wanted to do there. So how did all that just go down? I mean, again, be interested to hear.
Sure. So I was like a BC, more like a C student. My SAT scores weren't great, and with the recruiting, Vanderbilt, they were very, very high. And late in my senior season, they're like, hey, we don't know where you would fit on the defense. So they kind of pulled out. Illinois did as well. Always getting the letters. I mean, the recruiting's not like today. Talked to a few coaches. AIC, American International College.
In Springfield, right?
Yep. There was a coach, I think one of them lived in Glenridge. I forgot his name. Really nice guy. I put film together, and it was my senior season highlight, which they loved, they fell in love with, and there was not a lot of communication as far as the recruiting.
Okay.
With myself and with some of the coaches. I mean, the coaches were there, but ultimately it was more of, you got to do the homework yourself. And my parents didn't know. They didn't know.
Right.
And there were no resources. You couldn't Google, hey, what do I do in football recruiting, or what are my avenues? There was talk of me possibly going to Nassau County, but I didn't want to use up a year. And I did talk to schools, got the letters and all that kind of stuff. Coaches reached out. They'd reach out to Sineski.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it kind of got to the point that, at first it was like, hey, I want to go play at the big schools. I want to play for Illinois. I want to play for Rutgers. I talk to Rutgers quite often. Even West Point, I went up there for an unofficial visit at West Point at the time, and they said, they had a safety who was a hard hitter. They said I was very reminiscent of him. I forgot his name, and I like the culture up there. I like the fact their football team at the time.
John, real quick, you hit the mute button. All right, there we go. We're good.
Yep. So they were undersized, but they were in a game. They were in a game with like a Boston College, who was just this gigantic team. And I remember Andy. What was his name? The coach at the time, Andy Moeller. No, Andy Moeller was his son. Coach Moeller at Michigan, his son was recruiting me at West Point, and he told me. I went up there, and my SAT score, it wasn't as high as they would have liked it, but he says, we can get you in.
Mm-hmm.
He says, you get the two senator, the state senator's signatures, and your senator's signatures. He says you'll have to go to the prep school. At the time, the prep school is located in South Jersey.
Okay.
And I felt that lifestyle wasn't for me. And shortly after that, then I talked to Coach O'Connor, who throughout high school, I would always go to their camp. They ran a great camp. They really did. Coach G and Coach O'Connor. And Coach O'Connor, since Rich O'Connor, he's retired. But, he was truthful with me. He's like, listen, he's like, I don't think that we can get you, but he says, the door's open. He says, we would love to have you.
Mm-hmm.
And when it was, there was a lot of indecisiveness as far as the recruiting. And, I don't know at the time, I don't know what was on Coach Sineski's plate. We talked to him and he had asked about it, but then I started asking, wanted to stay close to home. At the time, Rutgers wasn't an option. I got a funny story about Rutgers after I was at Montclair, but I reached out to Coach G and Coach O, and I said, listen, I think I'd like to go up there for a visit. He said, yeah, bring some of your teammates. We went up there. Tyrone Rolls, I remember he was our wideout, and he was our tour guide, and Tyrone took us around. And I said, I like it. It's close to home. I like this.
Yeah.
Because it's a big jump. You're 18 and you're just going to pick up and say, I'm going to go to Florida. I mean,
huge, yeah.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah.
So it's not what it appears to be. And I said, at the end of the day, the most important is getting an education.
That's right.
Playing football. The bottom line is playing college football in general. And I can only speak from my experiences and seeing what my middle son goes through. It's not easy. It's, when people look, they look at, when you look at a college football player, you're thinking, he plays football, and I know for me, it was very demanding. Meetings, lifts, staying in shape, doing the right thing. And then plus with the balance with school, and trying to stay on track to graduate was always, that was top priority. And then I think around my last season playing college football, I think that's where I screw up a little bit more. And okay. I says, I'm almost there. I'm halfway there. I have to get that degree. And so if it wasn't for football, wasn't for Coach G and Coach O, who knows what would have happened. I would have had to take a different path, but it made life a little bit easier, if that makes any type of sense.
No, it does. It does. It's a juggling act. I mean, it's definitely a juggling act. Yes.
And when I say there were no regrets, because I look back and, and I've had people ask me, says, wouldn't you have liked to play? I said, I don't know. I said, because I was never there. So I can't say, hey, I'd like to play in front of 100,000 people in Michigan. I mean, I'm sure it would be fun, but at the end of the day, who knows what would have happened.
Right.
But I played.
But that conference you was in was serious. I mean, you guys. Oh. You got. I don't think they changed their name. Was it Rowan then? Was it Rowan or was it? Yeah. So you got Rowan. You get King. That was a serious. That was a lot of competition down there. A lot of competition.
Yeah, Rowan. They were a machine. Kane had a lot of. Coach Carlson, who was at Pope John, I think he just retired from coaching this past season. So he remembers me. And then when he coached against my boys, and I saw him say, hey, how you doing? And he was, it's great to see you. Your son's this, blah, blah, blah. And so it was, because it was, believe it or not, I thought about going to Kane, but it made more sense to go to Montclair. Had a lot of friends going there, knew a lot of people there, and it was a little closer. We played against, it was very competitive.
Absolutely.
Very, very competitive. And I never. I mean, in the summer when I graduated, I'd go up there for lifts, and I would see the guys that were at Montclair, and it goes back to making that transition from Pee Wee football to high school. It was similar because now, I mean, I'm the same size as some of these guys. Obviously, different positions, they're bigger, but they're men. You know, here I am, an 18-year-old kid, and now there's a 22-year-old guy or 23, and he looks different. His body's built different, you know. And it's so right out of the gate, it was humbling. And then you see, you know, I had a teammate who he was an All-American track guy. The guy ran a 4.3. I never saw a guy as fast as this in my life. And I says, whoa, I says, I'm going to be playing against guys like that. And so that right there, I didn't have the attitude that, hey, I'm better than everybody, but it was like, okay, you know, I did well in high school. I figured, okay, that's high school. But when you see these guys working out, well, that guy's big. Not only is he big, he's fast. I got to play against guys like that. I said, oh, I better step up my training. And I had no expectations to crack the lineup. I said, I'm just going to go in there and just play football. And similar to high school, because it was just like I said, being in this area with the athletes, not just football players, athletes in general. Because I remember in this county, you go, like I said, you go to a track, you know, like Jason Curie at Montclair. I mean, the guy was, he was a stud track guy. He's a stud football player, stud basketball player. You have guys of that caliber.
Yeah.
And you see a guy who's 6'3" and he's 215 pounds, and the guy's running the hurdles. You see all these skinny guys, and then you see, like, wait a minute, isn't that guy supposed to be doing the shot put? And you're like, oh no,
something right.
That's the reigning state champ.
Yeah.
So,
but now I know you switched positions at Montclair State. You wound up playing a little bit of linebacker, I think, right?
My first seasons as an underclassman, they put me at corner.
Okay.
And wow, it was good because we played a lot of, back then they called it bump and run. And
right.
Coach Hunter, he just tortured us physically to get us ready. He taught us how to backpedal. You know, we all thought we knew how to backpedal, but we didn't. So we did, you know, we locked down a lot of teams. And for me, it was like learning how to speak Russian. I mean, it was, yeah. I says, you know, I'm going to have to adapt. It's only going to make me a better football player. And then my last season, they put me I was a rover, and got you. Okay. That was fun. Now I'm back in my element. And, you know, whereas at corner, you're kind of taken out of the action. You're, you know, you're very tame. It's you and that wide receiver. All game, you're talking back and forth with each other. All right, yes, you talked about my mother. You know, you said how ugly I am. And, you know, you're kind of like a little bit removed. Tough position, one of the hardest positions on the field, because you know, with a lot of these schools, it goes back to what I was saying about athletes. Right. You're going against a 6'2", 215-pound wide receiver. I said, this guy should be playing linebacker, and the guy he's as fast as a deer. And week in and week out, you're playing against dudes like that. And you know, I learned to adjust very quickly. A big wake up call, a big welcoming party for me was when we scrimmaged Princeton, and it had Keith Elias, and Keith Elias was like tackling a Volkswagen. I mean, I was never around a football player who ran as hard as he did. I mean, I couldn't believe, wow. And he, obviously, you see the career he had in the NFL. But,
right.
You know, when they put me at rover when Coach Sorrentino came aboard, the first game, I think we played Brockport. I had 3 interceptions and I returned 2 for touchdowns. I says, wow. I says, man, this is fun. This is really fun. And that season, I scored another 95-yard fumble return against the College of New Jersey, and that was a fun year. That really was. It was It was more, like I said, more what I was accustomed to. I was in the box, but I wasn't. It was almost like what they call today, like a hybrid.
Hybrid, yeah.
So and it was like I said, it was a lot of fun. It was more of my element. Some guys don't like to be in the box. They don't like to mix it up with the giants, big guys, and there were some big guys, and they don't like to mix it up with the tight ends. But I didn't mind that. I really enjoyed, that was probably one of the funnest seasons out of my whole entire football career.
Okay.
In high school, I went both ways in high school. I did it. I was never off the field. I kicked off, I punted. I was a kick returner, everything, quarterback, wide out, running back, you name it. I mean, I sometimes they'd have me tape the guy's ankles. I did everything. Clean the bleachers, whatever.
Yeah. But it didn't go unnoticed though, because I know obviously in the college with the all conference honors and all that other stuff here. I got a name for you to throw you off real quick. A college teammate of yours that we got in common that we know. Dan Henry.
Dan Henry, wow. Danny Henry, wow. One of the strongest human beings I've ever seen. Danny's a great guy. I love Danny.
Yeah.
Danny, I wish, for Danny, Danny's a type of, you want to talk about a tough guy. Wow. But Danny, he's a type of guy that I would have loved to see him play running back because he was special. I remember him in high school. He was special in high school.
Yeah.
And, I think he was a Becton guy and, competitive league. It wasn't a big school, but I think Danny would kind of remind me of a Belleville guy. The type of guy that doesn't take any crap from anybody. On the field, you're in a football game when you're playing against Dan Henry. But they put him at linebacker, and Dan did well. But I think if Danny, I would have loved to see he because he was like a juggernaut. He was built like a Keith Elias, like I said. I mean, he was like he was like playing against a gorilla, but that's how Dan Henry was. Dan Henry's the type of guy who would just roll out of bed. Hey, I'm gonna go to the weight room. He'll throw 315.
No, that's him. Yeah, that's him. Yeah,
and he'll rep it out for 10 reps, and it's like he didn't warm up. He didn't do, but he was. But more importantly, he was a great teammate. He was, and a really good friend. A guy that, whether on or off the field, when it hit the fan, that he has your back.
Absolutely. I second that. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I haven't seen him in a long time, and I think I was somewhere and I drove by him. He saw me. He's like, Alvarado, hey, Danny, what's up? And I think he was at Teaneck at the time. I think he was an assistant coach. This was years ago. My kid.
No, he moved around. He was, he's still out in Teaneck. He's still out. He's teaching. He's coaching though at Parsippany Hills. He's on the staff over there now. So
okay, good.
Yeah. He's doing good. He's doing good.
Yeah, Danny. Yeah, he's great people.
Now, I figure I'd throw a name at you. So I know with college and all this, and you get done. Like, what you doing with yourself these days?
So I had kids young, and
okay,
so got done with college, and I remember I was working at the Montclair Municipal Court. I did an internship there, and I was fortunate enough to get just a position temporarily.
Okay.
Bounced around for a few jobs, and I ended up working for Maersk Sealand at the port. I was a vessel superintendent, supervising longshoremen. That was fun. I was there for 3 years, and then they froze our salaries for 2 years with an option for a third. And I just had my son Jonathan, and he was a little guy, and we were a young family. I was in my 20s, and told my wife, she said, well, what are you going to do? I said, well, I could stay there. It's great benefits. But, I said, well, I can leave. And so my father, he was a mechanic. He was an operating engineer, local 825. And we had dinner and I was having a conversation with him, and he said to me, he says, listen, at the meetings, they're asking for, legacies to come into the local, to apply for the apprenticeship program. Why don't you give it a shot? He says, why don't you come to the yard? And he was working for a dock building company at the time, Spear and Preston Burroughs. He says, come by the yard, fool around on the equipment. Went out there, and I said, wow. I said, this is like when I was a little kid. I remember this. He says, this is fun. He said, well, it's a lot. He said, it's more fun if you get paid. And
That's right.
so I applied to the apprenticeship down in at our training center, and down in Dayton, New Jersey, right off the turnpike. When I walked in and introduced myself, fill out an application, I said, "Oh, we'll be calling you." So I would call at least 3 times a week, and at the time, Cookie was her name. She was a secretary. She knew me by. She says, "Yes, Mr. Alvarado, we'll be calling you." And so that was in March, and I got a call. I got a letter in July to enter the apprenticeship program for the August class.
Okay.
And I was like, wow. And so for that 19 years, I'm a operating engineer local 825, and it's a lot of fun. It is. It's very similar to football. It's a big team. Everybody's got each other's backs. Got a great business manager, Greg Lalevy, who's he's very active with the state, doing great things for our organization. And but like I said, more importantly, for me, it was coming from high school to college, graduating college.
Right.
I didn't feel like I belonged to something, and because when you're done playing football, you don't have that camaraderie, you don't have that, like, the brotherhood. And even there were a few guys at the port who played. Like there was one guy, Darryl. He played at Colgate, and we hit it off. We talked. We had a mutual friend, Chris Young, who played at Nutley. Who was a phenomenal player.
I know Chris. Yep. And Chris. Just a kind of little fun fact. Me, Chris, and Dan, we went to prep school together. So that's how. Yeah.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Chris was a beast. He was. I think he's coaching at Colgate now, I believe.
He's got a head coach. I don't know if he's head coach. He's down south. I heard now. He's coaching though. He's in the coaching ranks. I'm not sure what school though, but yeah, he was at Colgate, but he's still in the coaching ranks. Yeah.
Oh, good for him. So, but so when I became an operating engineer, and this is like a big team. It really is, and and so one of my first jobs, I was still an apprentice, and I was working at Montclair State, and one of the other operators, Tony, I forgot his last name. His son played at St. Joe's, and I introduced myself, and he says, "You from Belleville?" I says, "Yeah." And then he says, "Man, used to give us heartburn at St. Joe's." He says, "Man, you were a hell of a football." He says, "You were some football player." He says, I used to like watching you. I really did. He says, "You were a lot of fun. You were just out there flying around having fun. You just threw caution to the wind." And I said, "Yeah, that was me. That was definitely that's how you can sum it up pretty much." But
that's good stuff. Did sports ever leave you? Obviously, throughout your professional career.
No.
I know you got kids, so did you wind up coaching or doing anything, or you just wanted to be a dad? You just wanted to be a dad.
Yeah, I thought about coaching, but when I had kids, that my wife and I, we were young. It took up a lot of time. My oldest boy, he ended up playing. He played football, and for one season at Harrison, ended up wrestling.
Okay.
Did very well, high school wrestling, and he went on to the Marine Corps. Did very well there, and he's doing good for himself today. But with as they got a little older, with my younger sons, I coached wrestling. I was going to help out with football, but to tell you the truth, I think football, I don't know if I would have been a good fit, because I don't think some of the parents would have liked how I approached things. I love coaching. I love helping out, but at the same time, I'm not going to tolerate, someone not putting their all. I can't,
right.
I can't sit back and see that. I mean, I'm not going to talk to them how my youth coaches talk to me. They'd probably put me in handcuffs.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, I just think that it time consuming, number one. Number two, it was, kind of not seeing my sons kind of develop. Yeah, I think that was another deciding factor.
Okay.
But more importantly, it was a time issue. I coached baseball. Was never a head coach, but I coached baseball. And the lessons I learned, I would try to tell the kids, in baseball. And even I myself, I would always, like the kids that I would pay more attention to the kids that weren't hitting the home runs.
Mm-hmm.
Because, the kids that are hitting the home runs and that the kids they're gifted athletes. Kids like that, I just got to get a charger. Kids like that, you kind of just, they could take care of themselves, so to speak. And my philosophy was always, and in high school, if you make the weakest link strong, it's only going to strengthen the strongest link.
That's right.
And the one thing that I see, especially in youth sports, the years that I was around them, is the fact that a lot of coaches would cater to, hey, little Johnny's going to be the next Jabril Peppers, or little Johnny's going to be the next Derek Jeter. But that it doesn't work that way, because it's and I would tell the kids, I said, listen, and the parents, I said, listen, I think your son should do X, Y, and Z. And he's like, well, he's not that good. I says, well, it's about him improving. It's, all these kids need work, all of them. And just like myself, there's things that I lacked, and I would work on my weaknesses more than my strengths. And because my weaknesses would become strong, and it would strengthen my strength, it would make my, strengthen the strength, so to speak. So, but, and then as my sons got older, I figured, I said, it's kind of time that they do their own thing, that, with a coach, they don't have that. I want it to be like behind the scenes, and, be the dad that would say, I would say, how do you think you played today? How do you think you wrestled? I could have did this, but it's okay when you work on it. I said, so you gave it your all, and, it's, I don't like when they say you leave it on the field, because you don't leave it on the field. It comes off the field with you, because that's who you are as a person. It's going to bother you. You lost, you missed a tackle. But then what, quote unquote, was supposed to be left on the field, you're going to take that into the weight room, into the film room. Because you're always going to make mistakes. I mean, my middle son, who was a, all-state up for player of the year, defensive player when he was a senior, he makes mistakes. He made, against Delaware, they have a phenomenal team. They're in the semifinals playing JMU. He missed some tackles, and he knew his mistake. And I just said, how do you think you played today? And immediately, I made some mistakes, Dad. I gotta. She says, all right, good. And that was it. End the conversation. So it's kind of tough coaching your own kids. It's very tough. Not that they knew it wasn't easy. Like, when I would coach them in wrestling or baseball. But I think as they get a little older, I want them to have the influence of someone else.
Yeah, no, I get it. Totally get it.
Even strength training, any of that type, you just give them advice. Because I did that even with my oldest son with wrestling, and it was like, it's time that I kind of, you gotta be coached and by somebody else, because you're not so much resentment, but it was like, hey, your dad, Dad, why are you doing this? It's like when you, with my dogs, like if you scold your dog, they look at you, it's like, wait a minute, you're just kissing me and loving me. So what, I peed on the couch. And so I think with my sons, it was sort of like, I was like, now it's time that someone else kind of develops you, from a different perspective. And I think it paid off. And, but of course, teaching humility as well. And going back to, like, you asked me what I do for a living, and my occupation, it's a very humbling experience. And,
Okay.
and with cranes and, with the machinery that we operate, you go to a job and somebody can ask you, if you go out there with a cocky attitude, they're going to know you're going to get exposed, and you just don't look good. And plus, you get complacent, you could hurt people. You want to put your best foot forward, and you want to be humble.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Just like in football,
right.
You're thinking you're the guy, and then when you go play, you go play a Montclair, and they got 10 guys just as good, if not better than you. You're like, wait a minute. And so you get to eat that humble pie very quickly.
Totally, a lot of parallels. Totally, a lot of parallels. I was just gonna say, even with sports, speaking of parallels or what have you here, what has sports taught you that's stuck with you to this day?
Hard work, and humility.
Okay.
The one thing that I pass on not only to my kids is, you win with humility and you lose with dignity. And I know we've had, playing in Belleville and playing against some tough teams, we always didn't play by the rules. And like I said, there's a lot of extracurricular activities, but at the end of the day, regardless of what the score was, you have to take pride. You have to take pride in what you do. So right. when I go out to a job to run a crane for a contractor, I represent an organization that has my back. Well, they expect me to reciprocate. Mm-hmm. Where I don't, you look the part, you talk the part, you're a professional, and you have to take pride in what you do. You have to take pride in the fact that you're on a team, and you got to put your best foot forward. So, the pride, humility, and just appreciating the guys that are to your right and to your left, because we're all not the same.
Right. Right.
So like I said, when you go to college, you're exposed to different, really different cultures. People from different neighborhoods, they talk different than you. Mm-hmm. They're raised differently. So you get an appreciation for people that otherwise you might not have come. Montclair State, it was a lot of Jersey kids. So talking to a kid who was from Philadelphia, talking to a kid who was from South Jersey, you kind of not only get to know the person, but what that area is about. You're like, oh, all right, cool. So you see people, and I think a lot of us in Essex County, I think a lot of us were, we may look different, we may have different backgrounds, but ultimately I think we kind of talk, we kind of have the same attitude. We all have that chip on our shoulder, and yeah. Going to college and being exposed from different people, just like I said, from different areas, it was, you respect, you have a different outlook on people. I was always taught to respect people. I was always exposed to different cultures, and, having some family members who didn't speak English. So, but just seeing, as just growing up, and then when you learn how to treat people.
Absolutely.
Because if you can't go around doing that, because you will be humble. I'm not saying a guy's going to walk up and start a fight with you, but there's a way to how to conduct yourself, and it goes back to the pride, the humility.
Yes.
So that was the biggest, and I'm very, very thankful for that. That was probably the biggest lesson, the humility, just being humble, how to carry yourself, and just give it your all. You have to give it your all. You do, and I think that speaks volumes. And I had Joe Troyce. It's funny because Joe Troyce, who he himself is a great football player. He's a retired firefighter. Mm-hmm. I remember talking to him in high school, and he always said, he's like, listen, you can go big time. He was a big fan of mine. I worked out with him a few times, and he said to me, he's like, John, he says, what you do now, you'll be doing your work ethic, it's going to dictate how you are as a man throughout the rest of your life, how you treat people, how you work. And that stuck with me because he said to me, he's like, listen, there's guys that I grew up with who they dogged it. They just, they didn't want to do the workouts. And he says, you know what? He said, I see people like that. And he says, 20, 30 years later, they're still the same. And so, listening to people, guys like him, just really stuck with me. It really stuck with me. Because when you're humble, and you could also pick up your teammate's not doing good. It's like, oh man, what's going on? The coaches just don't worry about him. Because I've been there. I've had coaches ride me in college and say things to me that I wasn't accustomed to. And just feeling like, wow, I think this guy really liked me. And then you have a teammate, pretty much metaphorically speaking, put his arm around you and like, hey man, like, don't worry about that. Shake that off. And this is a guy who, he could be from Camden. He could be from, Florida. Who knows where he's from.
Right.
But we had that common bond. So for me, that really stuck with me, and it, like I said, it goes back to just being humble, because you got to humble yourself to, see who you are. It says a lot about yourself when you put your arm around somebody and say, hey man, because you're no longer thinking of you. You're thinking of the next guy to your left or your right.
Absolutely. So, definitely.
So that's some of the lessons. I mean, there's a lot of lessons, but that's the main ones that really stuck out. And to this day that I passed on, and I just pass on to grandchildren and all that kind of stuff. So
absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I appreciate you just taking the time. I'm gonna let you off the hook just that fast, though, okay. John. You got a couple of more minutes for me?
I got as much time as you want. It's Friday night.
No. Want no problems with the household. In the household, trust me. I'm well aware of that. I want no problems in the household.
No. My wife knows. She knows when it comes, especially football. When it comes to sports, I could sit here, like I said, I could jawbone all night. It's a lot of fun. It really is, because it turns up for me. It brings a lot of memories, not just being a fan of the game and being in high school. Like I said, I was, you become a fan. You go watch other teams. You go watch Montclair play Randolph. And that in my opinion, I think Montclair won that game. If you want my opinion, that's my opinion. And they had some phenomenal football players. I remember back then, and so did Randolph. I'm not taking anything away from them, but it was the fact that it was a team that was a non-Essex County team playing an Essex County team. And then one, I was like, wow. I was with two of my friends, and we were like, wow, man, jumping around. The place went bananas, and it was like, it's like playing street football. It's a do-over. No. You stepped out of bounds, so you got a do-over. And I'm like, what is this about? They just kicked they won. They missed a field goal, and they let Mike Rowe kick it again. And of course he didn't miss, and then they won. I couldn't believe that. I was just like,
yeah, definitely, man. It definitely was a big game, man. It was a bummer, definitely a bummer, man. What had some questions for you. I like to just call this like on the spot here, if that's okay.
Of course.
When you're driving, you taking the Parkway or the Turnpike?
Parkway.
Parkway. Okay. Nutley or Bloomfield?
Bloomfield.
I didn't think you was going to answer that one because your loyalty to Belleville. I was messing with you with that one. I wanted to mess with you with that one. Belleville or Montclair State?
Montclair State.
How come?
Because my last season was a lot of fun.
Okay.
That's why I have to see that, but that's a hard one. I mean, oh man, like I said, I mean, I could be here all night just talking about just the memories with Montclair State, but Belleville. That was more of an impulsive answer, because when you said Montclair State, I said Montclair State. The first thing that popped in my head was, like I said, it was my last season was memorable.
Last year, yeah,
it was memorable, but I would not have been there without the help of, more importantly, my teammates. And it was good, having some of the guys, they would come up, some guys went to Rutgers, some guys, and when they were off, they'd come see me play. That was pretty cool. That was fun, so that was definitely memorable for those guys to come, and just keep that home vibe, and who I represent, and where I came from, and
that's a great feeling. That's a great feeling.
It is. It really is. Yeah.
Great feeling.
Yeah. Absolutely. 100%.
Best game you ever played in your life on any level?
Oh, probably the T-Net game, senior year. I had, I think I scored 2 or 3 touchdowns. I had 2 interceptions, blocked 2 punts, and just had a handful of just some crazy hits. Yeah, just went out there and just flew around like a lunatic. And
interesting.
Yeah,
reason I say that, I might know somebody on that T-Net team. We became good friends here. Corey Brown. I don't know if that name rings a bell.
Oh yeah. His brother. Yeah, Corey. He was a hell of a ball player. I met Sean. His brother writes for.
He writes for. I forget. He one of the publications. I can't remember what it is.
I think 24/7.
Okay.
And he knows my boys very well. So he was at a game, one of my son's games, and Corey was there. And he was like, "Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?" And it was good to we talked about that game.
I'm glad he'll see this, so he'll get a little start to pout a little bit when he realized you said that was your best game you ever played was against him.
Yeah.
Yes.
I could tell you, T-Net always had the best athletes. They were, they were just a phenomenal. They had a lot of great athletes. They really did, and some big dudes. They were some of the biggest guys in the conference. They were, and but they were. We always played them later in the year, so we would always. I think if we played them earlier in the year, depending on their mindset, if they had, I don't think we'd be able. It would be tough to beat them. I know previously they had some studs, but by the end of the season, we were a little angry, losing some close games, and so I just think that we were on a roll, and that's why we were able. I think we would always, not only them, but we would wear teams down physically, and what I mean by that, because just that, just like a wild dog, just never backing. It was like almost like a Wolverine, and you ever see videos of them taking on like a pack of wolves. It was almost like that, because we always had a chip on our shoulder. We were always predicted to get beat. Even if the team we were playing wasn't on paper good, Belva's going to lose against that team, or they're going to lose against this team.
Yeah.
And for us, we took that personal, and it's like, okay, we're going to lose. We may lose on a scoreboard, but we're going to win the game of attrition. And Chris, turn that light on, please. So we're gonna win the game of attrition, and we could be playing like a St. Joe's, and then we're down 2 touchdowns, and it was all right. It's all right. We just gotta. These guys, they're gonna have to help each other walk out of here. They're not getting out. They're not getting this win that easy. And,
got you.
Yeah, but it was it was definitely a lot of fun. I had a lot of great games. I'm not tooting my own horn, but we left everything. We just let everything hang out, and we just played. And we didn't leave it on the field, because I think if we left it on the field, we wouldn't have it for the following week. And our coaches, Coach Sineski had a lot of his former players, John Olivieri, John Apicella, come back and coach and help out. And those guys were also instrumental. So they were older than us. We looked at them like older brothers.
Okay.
And I know I did. And I mean, there was a love there. The relationship that we had with them, it was, it was a family thing. Because if there was a problem, you can call them. You can call Coach Alvarado, Coach Apicella, but they were Coach Sinaski. Coach Sinaski was, and I love Coach Sinaski. I really do. Great coach, great guy, great family man. Learned a lot from him.
Mm-hmm.
Just how to conduct myself in life, and he would always have those pep talks with me to the side, and he would always say I was like a wild Mustang and nobody can corral me. He would always say that. But but I think to kind of to compliment him, he would have like I said, the younger coaches who played for him, and they were also the JV coaches. In my sophomore year, I would play offense on JV, and that was I remember the JV coaches. They would just say, "Listen, just go out there and just do what you do." He's like, "All you guys," he said, "just go out there and just play hard-nosed, play devil football."
Right.
So
them JV days, them JV days. So,
yeah. So it was almost like a second feeder system, if that makes any sense.
I see what you're saying.
Where they get a hold of you outside of Coach Sinaski and Coach, because like I said, Coach Sinaski, he wasn't a screamer, he wasn't a yeller, but the other coaches, they were. Mm-hmm. They get in your face. I love that. I did, because I was a rah-rah guy, and all of us were. And he would just say, just go out there and fly around. Just go fly around, because they played for Coach Sinaski in the mid '80s when Coach Sinaski had Mike Murphy, and Dave Grant was a little bit before that, Phil Surza. Mm-hmm. And you had, and not only those guys, I mean, they were the big name guys, but they were all tough kids. They were they were hard-nosed, blue-collar, tough kids. Yeah. And where the parents are not, "Oh, coach, don't say this about him. Don't do." No, it was, if anything, the coach, if the coach called up the parent, "Hey, little Johnny," or little Mikey was, I had this. What I had. He's like, "Oh, well, smack him in his head, kick him in his butt. Tell him to." and that's what we had. That's mm-hmm. what we were. That's what we were exposed to. And then also I know for myself, you develop an appreciation for authority. You look up to them. You listen to your coaches.
Right.
You have a respect, and also it filters down to your teammates. And like I said, you lift up, like I said before, that weakest link, so to speak, and not putting anyone down. But you make that weak link strong, it's going to make the stronger links even stronger. And it just carries through the season.
Absolutely.
And, we never, I know for myself, being one of the better players on the team, I would never look down on the guy. If anything, we would have some players who were, like, they weren't the best athletes. Mm-hmm. And, you could see when coming off the field or after practice, you'd see some of the parents, they come up, "Hey, how you doing?" And, it's like, you're tired after practice, and oh man, it's like, why is this parent bothering me? Why is she always, like, the mom and dad always saying hi to me? And like, which I didn't mind, but then they would talk to me. You realize that they had an appreciation because of the fact that you kind of took their son under mm-hmm. your wing, and you're helping him out. Because otherwise, it's like I said, he's not playing college football. He's not going to be the starter. He may never get on the field at the varsity level. But the fact that he's part of something that's bigger than him, that's something that his parents can't provide him, that we can as a team, and maybe as me as a captain, or Mike Citarella, or some of the other captains, that speaks volumes. And
it does. It does.
Yeah, and then you look back and you're just like, you'd say, "Hey man, what's the matter with me?" It's like, hey, how you doing, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Smith? How are you, Mrs. And then you would have a parent sometimes. Some parent would take you to the side. "Listen, I just want to thank you so much. What you've done for my son. that his confidence. He's able to look people in the eye when he talks. He's a different person for the better. And I think, and then they would say, he says, it's lessons that he's learned that it's going to stick with him forever. And then when you see those guys, hey, how's your mom and dad? And it goes back to, hey man, you remember when we were going to up to Bergen Catholic, or we were going to play at Teaneck, and on the way there you did this, and so it was great times. It was
absolutely. Had speaking of the great times, I'll give you a tough one here. You the best football player to ever come out of Belleville High?
Best football player ever to come out of Belleville High.
I'm saying, are you?
Am I? I'm going to say no.
Okay. Who's your top five?
My top, Rich Luzzy. He's since passed away, so
okay.
May he rest in peace. Mike Murphy. Mike Murphy was an animal on both sides of the ball.
Okay.
I don't know some of the younger generations, so it's kind of hard. But then again, I know maybe some young guys might not like what I'm going to say, but week in and week out, when you're playing Hammers and you're performing, when you're playing at NNJIL, which I think I was up to the late '90s. I think it disbanded, or it's kind of hard to argue when you have a guy like a Mike Murphy, Phil Serza. That's another great one. David Grant, Mark Walsh. Another guy that stands out, Frank Vizzini, so I mean those names right there, in my mind, growing up, they were like legends, and and once again, their teams. It's funny because when you talk to guys like that, and you talk to guys of like Mike Murphy's generation from those teams, a lot of those guys, they're still friends to this day. They're close friends. And it's so for me, I think, that I think when you ask who's the best football player, it's just, for me, it's not the stats. I think what embodies that is the fact that they went out there and it wasn't, oh, me, me, me. It was we, and me, it sounds corny. Me makes the we, so to speak. And
see what you're saying.
They went out there and they would play against Craig Hayward and they would beat him. They stopped him. The only team to stop him his senior year, or so. As far as I never saw Mr. Luzzy play, but he went on and had a great career at Clemson. Mike Murphy, definitely top three. Definitely top three, because he himself, like I said, he's the guy that he was bigger than me. I think he was a defensive end. He was bigger than me, but he was the type of guy that you can, he's like a utility guy. You want him to run the ball, he'll run the ball. He can catch the ball, and he's a punisher. He was an animal. He was definitely just a real, tough guy. I'm going to throw a name out there as an under the radar type guy, was Jimmy Duhame. Like I said, he went on to play at Southern Connecticut. Jimmy was first team All County my senior year. Big guy, big body guy. Just a hard-nosed football, great role model. That he was very fortunate to play with him.
Okay.
But he wasn't the guy. To tell you the truth, I don't think there's, from what I can remember, I wasn't around too many guys from Belleville to say, well, I was this and I was that, and I did this and I did that. It was more of, you hear this, every story you heard was, hey, do you remember when we played Passaic against Hayward? Or do you remember when we did this or when we did that?
The wheeze, right.
Exactly. So, I think it rubbed off. That's a very, very, very hard question.
It's just having some fun. Of course, you leave people out, and to your point here, I mean, everybody categorizes it differently. It necessarily don't have to be about the numbers. Just having a little bit of fun, the conversation.
Oh yeah,
now
great question. And I think I'm I'm going to go. I always judge with my last season, Coach Sineski, in the article, newspaper interview he did, he said I was, he said I was one of the best he's coached. So that for him to say that, that's a big accomplishment. And we had another coach, Coach McGregor, Jack McGregor, who he coached in Jersey City. He went to Dickinson High School. Now he coached an Outland Trophy winner. He coached guys that went on to the NFL, and when he retired, he coached in Belleville. He was a freshman coach, and I saw him. There was a Montclair State football reunion dinner, and every year, because of COVID, unfortunately, we can't have them. But I always donate some money, and it's more like a beefsteak. And he was there, and Coach G was there, and I'm talking to Coach G, and Coach McGregor came over, and he says, Coach G, he says, I coached him when he was a freshman. I coached John in high school, and he says, yeah, and Coach G says, I'm aware of that. So Coach McGregor says, he goes, listen, I'm not saying this. He's one of the best football players I've ever coached. And he says, I've coached an Outland Trophy winner. I coached guys at that caliber. He says, but him, talking about me, and I appreciate that. So, it's one thing from my peers, which I do appreciate. There's a lot of support, a lot of friends, and I really appreciate, especially when I see my kids. Oh, your father was this, your father was that. But when it comes from a guy who played in the 40s, for over 50 years of coaching experience, that for me that speaks volumes, because you have a guy that he's not looking from, oh wow, look at the tackle he made. Wow, he's a great football player. No, he sees what goes into being a good football player, a good solid football player day in and day out. So it's a humbling question. It is. I mean, I think people that know me, I don't think I was the guy that's like, oh, I'm the best. I'm the best. I was good. I was a very good football player, but the measuring stick was very big. Let's put it that way.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Cool. I got just a couple more, and I'll leave you alone.
Sure. That's all right.
Also, what's the best part about being John Alvarado?
My looks. Look how good looking I am.
There we go.
You made it, because when you turned on the camera, you made a face. That's what people usually. That's their response when they see me. My family, friends, definitely my family. Got a very supportive family. Wouldn't trade it for anything. But the memories are definitely what makes me who I am, because I tell a lot of stories, not only in football, but the people I grew up around with, just like I said, they were street guys. They born and raised in Newark, and hardworking guys, blue collar guys that and also guys in my family as well. But as far as like Belleville in this area, the type of guys that no nonsense guys, and we got a chip on your shoulder. So just being prideful, not a false sense of pride. When I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but as the best part about being me is just having a really strong support system. Not only in my immediate family, which it's like I said, I love my family. We're very, very tight, my family. We are, and but just in Belleville, just in general, like going to work out at my friend's gym, Jay Isaac. He helps the Belleville wrestling team out tremendously, and talking to him and some of the younger guys and their parents going to a Belleville wrestling match, like, hey, how you doing? I remember you. And so it's always good when you're at the store and when the kids were young and you see like my junior year against Bloomfield, I blocked the punt, and my Scott Mayers scored a touchdown. And on the film, you can see I'm not congratulating him. I get up and I turn and I run off the field because I got kicked in my stomach. And not only the ball, but also the punter's foot.
Right.
And I remember being in Costco. I was working at the port, and Perry Mayers, Mr. Mayers, Scott's father was there, and he ran over to me, hugged me, kissed me. Hey, how you doing? And he said, hey, I love you. And whenever I saw him, he always says, he says, I'll never, and God rest his soul, he says, I will never, ever forget what you did for my son. I said, it's part of the game. And he says, yeah, but my son scored a touchdown. He's a big lineman.
Yeah.
They don't score touchdowns. And
yeah.
So, never once did I say, wow, I wish I scored. I wish that was me getting the ball. No, it was, Scott scored, Scott Mayers. And that's something that, so that's the best part. That's because, it made me who I am, makes my family who they are. Because then you appreciate the people that became before you.
Totally.
And then I'm able to pass it on to the younger generation. So, and even, just real quick, Coach Johnson, he asked myself and Mike Citarella, they were a couple of years ago, they were going to play Nutley. And he says, if you can you please talk to my team? I said, absolutely. I says, my wife came and my wife was there, and I talked to them, and pretty much what we talked about, I talked to them, talked about pride, just talked about humility, and this is just going out there and just it's your last high school football game for you seniors, and it's something that you're going to take with you to the next, for those that are playing, and for those that are not playing college football, the lesson that you're going to take is just pride. Just take pride in who you are, take pride in what you've done. Play for your coaches, play for the guy next to you. And, so it was like a couple years later, or maybe actually it was recently. I was having dinner with my wife. We were out. The young man keeps looking at me, and I says, he looks familiar. And whatever, I didn't make anything of it. So I get up to use the restroom. He says, you're John Alvarado. I says, yeah. I said, how are you? He says, do you remember? I says, you look familiar. I says, you're from Belleville High School. And he says, yeah. He said, you spoke to us the day before the Nutley game.
Okay.
He says, what you said still resonates with me even after high school.
That's all right.
I appreciate that. So I gotta reach out to Jermaine, because Jermaine says always come by, and with the restrictions in place, I don't know if I could just pop in and never want to look at me. They see me, they're gonna call the cops, for crying out loud. I mean, I look like a guy that belongs on the post office wall, and so I have to reach out to him, and they're doing a good job over there. They are. You got him. You got Coach Joe Pizzi with the wrestling program. His father and his mother, they were big fans of mine when I was in high school, and so it's good to see them. Tommy D'Elia, who's I think he's the AD. He was a teammate of mine, good friend of mine. His brothers were very good athletes themselves. So it's good to see that you have the guys from my generation and a little younger that when you talk to them, they say, we want to bring that Belleville pride, that Belleville toughness. And I said, yeah, absolutely. And I says, whatever I can do, reach out to me, and I will make time. I will make it a priority. I'll make it a priority to get there and to give back as much as I possibly can to you guys. So, I would love to get involved in coaching someday. I know one of my sons wants to get involved in coaching. Maybe in the future, maybe when the kids, like I said, I got my one son, and we're looking at, the schools of Bedford. He's got a handful of offers, thank God.
Okay, good.
So, it's been tough. We've had some the past year. It's been tough, and that's where the family thing comes in. With the pandemic, we got some family members that are sick that that my wife is involved with, and so it hasn't been easy. But we get through it, and it's I know I keep going back to I always keep telling these stories, but so when my youngest son, my middle son was in 8th grade, I ran into Vito Campanelli, and he was at a wrestling tournament, and he says, "Hey, I'm the football coach at Seton Hall Prep." And I said, "Yeah, I read that in the paper. Congratulations." And he said, "He's like, listen, he's like, your son Jonathan." Now he used to see Jonathan wrestle, and he says, "Where's your son going to high school?" I said, we don't know. I says, we want to go to parochial route, but we really don't know. Okay. And he says, "Listen," he says, "I'd love to have him." He says, "I think if your son comes, I think he can be an impact player immediately." He says, the first thing he said to me was, after that was, he goes, "I want kids that not are fair lawn tough where he's from, not Paramus Catholic tough." He says, first he said, "I want Belleville tough." Okay. Then he said, "I want Essex County tough." Mm-hmm. I said, "Vito, there's a lot of tough guys from this county, man. Yeah. There's still a lot of tough kids." He says, "I know." Now, if you look at the parochial league, or Catholic, whatever you want to call it, it's littered. It's littered with County kids. Oh yeah. And so he said that, and he says, "I want those kids." And I says, "Okay." So he ended up going there, and he did very well. He started as a freshman. He was a fullback, and it was, it was a great choice. It was, it really was, and he had a great experience. But it resonates that with what we accomplished. And like I said, we weren't the best team. We weren't a state-ranked team. Mm-hmm. But when you have that admiration and respect from schools that were the state champions, that Vito, Vito had, or I don't know if he still has it, or had the passing record in New Jersey, because Coach Mike Campanelli, he installed the
was it a run and shoot or something like that back then?
Yes, yes, the West Coast, yes, used to drive us crazy. Yeah. And so when you have guys like that and his assistant coaches, or when you have my son's high school coach saying, "Wow," he's like, I talked to some guys, man. He says, "You were a dude." Mm-hmm. And he's like, "This is coming from this coaching staff or that coaching staff." Mm-hmm. And I says, "Well, I said, I played hard. I tried my best. That's all I can say." And so it's funny. Like I said to one of my son's coaches who played for my buddy Danny Garrett at Kane, I happened to say to him, I says, I scored 2 touchdowns and I had an interception. And he's a younger guy, so he says, "Oh man, look at this guy." And I said, look at this guy. So I've had people say, "Hey, wouldn't it be nice to play at the bigger schools?" Like I said, I says, "Yeah, but how many kids at those big schools can say they did what I did?" Now, yes, I am tooting my own horn, but it's not a knock at Division III football. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, at one time, when you do something like that, myself and players like myself, when you have an accomplishment like that, you're like leading the country in scoring. Yeah. And that in itself, it's an achievement. I played. I just wasn't on a team. I played for. I believe things happen for a reason. I had a great time. Like I said, I have no regrets. I got on the field. I played football. That's the most important thing. You're playing. Had a great experience. I went to school. More important, I graduated.
Graduated. I
have a degree in political science sitting in front of me in my living room. And it's a testament to, like I said, that hard work, where you have people counting on you, where you could go back and you could tell your head football coach in high school, "Hey, I graduated." Mm-hmm. And like I wasn't the best student, had a learning disability coming up when I was young. So school wasn't easy for me. School became it was manageable, but it became, when I was almost done with my degree, then it became, you could say, easy. But before that, it was a struggle. It was really, it was very, at times disheartening. So, I've overcome a lot of obstacles to get mm-hmm. where I am, so, well, once again, it was that support system, and it wasn't, it was the friends. I think about leaving school. Man, don't leave school, man. Come on, look how far. And I'd have a friend. Look how far you've come.
Mm-hmm.
Look where you were to where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell kids that. I said, listen, you don't have to go to MIT. You don't have to have a 4.0. Just do something that's going to make your family proud, like your teammates. Hey, you hear what Alvarado's doing? You hear what this guy's doing? You hear what that guy's doing? So it's a lot of pride. It speaks volumes of who I am and the guys that I played with and I grew up with. When you're talking to Frank DeMeo from Nutley, great quarterback. Really, like I said, the Nutley team, Donnie Solari, I stay in touch with him every now and again. And you talk to guys like that, and they tell my wife, "Oh, your husband was this," and she's like, "Yes, I know, I heard it."
Yeah.
Well, I'll do that. Like maybe in the season I'll see Andre Tippett. I'll say, "Hey, I'm not gonna even ask him about the Patriots. I'm gonna ask him about Verducci playing. How was it playing for Verducci?
Mm-hmm.
How was it playing with Coach Hunter? How was Norm Granger?" And then, I would like to pick his brain and just say, "Hey, your son's a great football player, number one, but it's just, to get where he came from, humble beginnings, to where he got, and not only that, but more importantly, like Coach Hunter would always say, he says, get your degree. It's the first thing he said, get your degree. Got to get your degree. I got mine."
Mm-hmm.
He says, people like us, they look at us and they says, "You're not supposed to have a degree. You're just a football player. That's all you are. You're this,
right.
You're that." And so that was, it's a testament to, like I said, that Belleville toughness, that it goes back to that. And, I take pride in that. Not only football, but the other sports. When you hear, when you hear of like a girl wrestler from Belleville placing in the States, that's, she's a tough girl. They're tough girls.
It's big stuff. Yeah, that's big stuff. Definitely. John, I know before we go, I just wanted to say this to you, man. Thank you. And I thank you, like I mentioned to you when we first got on, as far as just, just being on my wish list and able to have this to come to fruition and have opportunity to meet you and talk to you or what have you. And, just stories just in my past and just hearing about just your prowess on the field and everything else. But just to hear your conversation right now, just the man that you are, the family man that you are, and you could just hear the pride, not only playing football, what have you, but the family man, the career that you have and everything else, man. It just exudes as you're talking. And I just wanted to say,
sure.
You being like officially you indirectly helped me be officially me. We're Essex County boys, however you want to put it. And I just wanted to say thank you, man. I'm really appreciative of your time and you just taking time out to just to talk to me, man. Like I said, I'm really happy I got a chance to learn a little bit about you this evening.
Yeah, I thank you. It's I think it's important for future generations to come and, not only Belleville kids, when I'm talking, I hopefully have some of the younger generations, whether it's Newark, East Orange, Verona, whatever, where they see this and they're like, wow, man, I like what this guy's saying,
Yes.
Just taking pride and because, where he started from humble beginnings. He had a learning disability. I mean, listen, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say, oh, everybody was a fan. I mean, I was a lot to handle. A role model and a close friend of mine is Coach Rich Ruffalo, who's a multi-time Paralympian. We still talk to this day. Other than outside my family, he was one of my biggest fans, with Coach Ness. I learned a lot from him. But so, and I know that there are kids out there. I mean, it's easier for kids now, especially kids with, if they're hyper or they have some type of learning disability. But years ago, it wasn't. It wasn't always like that. And I'm not going to. I'll never, mention any names, but there were people in my past that, like I said, they weren't fans. They weren't trying, but they just weren't understanding of who I was as, like, what some teachers would tell me, and or they would tell, and they would talk. They would say, I talked to this teacher, and to have maybe a little more patience. And so, where you have, and I even doubted myself. I said, will I go to college? Can I handle the work? Can I, will I be able to sit down and do the work? So, like I said, with that support system, and say, yeah, I can do it, and I did it. I think there's, especially now, I think there's a lot of, some kids may be going through it. Some kids may look at themselves and say, well, I'm not the big recruit. I'm not this and I'm not that. And, and people could say, well, it's easy. Your son's great football players, highly recruited, this and that. I says, well, yeah. I says, but there's still work that has to be done. I says, and then when you go to the next level, whether you play at Montclair State or you play at Penn State, guess what? What you did in high school, the head coach, Rich Franklin or Coach Ian Cole, is not going to say to you, oh, wow, you're a 5-star. Well, you're all this, all that. The whole room's filled with 5 stars, yes. 4 stars, 3 stars. Mm-hmm. The main thing is, what are you going to do for yourself when you get there? Yeah. And, get an education. You're playing football. That in itself that speaks volumes in itself, because not a lot of guys go on to college to do it. They don't. And, whether it's because, there's a lot of opportunities out there for student athletes, for football players. There are. But maybe they don't believe in themselves. But I could say that, a knucklehead like me, and and one thing about us with the Belleville, we weren't bad kids. We weren't hanging out. We were nuts. We were nuts on the field. Mm-hmm. We were. I mean, you had fun with us. Who's going to school? Who's going to school in a bathrobe with cleats? I mean, stuff like that. Who's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The stories, I don't. Just those in themselves. That's all I do. Is to this day I laugh. I tell stories of, a good friend. We all congregate at the end of the hall, and who's got the bathrobe on? Who's walking around in shorts and sandals? We weren't supposed to, because he just didn't want to get, just knucklehead stuff like that. But more importantly is that when you have, and I think a lot of football coaches, and just because their record, they're not coach of the year, doesn't mean they're coach of a lifetime in a kid's lifetime, because they're making it happen
right
for those kids. They're putting those kids in school. They're going above and beyond, taking them to camps, getting them recognition in that way. So that in itself, that speaks volumes. So, for the younger guys, especially, and I direct this towards the guys in this county, there's a lot of opportunity. There is so much opportunity. There are, and there's like great coach, Coach Smoke in Irvington, what he's doing with that program. Those kids are going to school. West Orange, those kids are going to school. They have a young man who's going to Stanford. I mean, come on. I mean, that speaks volumes in itself. I mean, my hat's off to him. I love hearing that stuff. I really, really do. And it's, I think Essex County football in general, I think we're kind of like the underdog, so to speak, okay. In the sense that we're kind of especially, we're kind of overlooked. At one time we weren't, but everybody, well, I want to go here. I want to, for the attention. And there's a lot of talent that comes out of here. But I think ultimately, it's a testament to the families and especially where I come from. And they just, you have to have a chip on your shoulder, but they have they're just very humble. They're humble. I'm thinking about a lot of people that I know just from the surrounding towns that I've run into, and even at the private schools with the kids that are from this area. Just some, I'm thinking of some of my younger son's friends that are from this area. Their parents are. You look at the kids and you're like, wow, the kids are like that because of the parents, and it's because they're from this area. And it's always been, like I said, it's a hardworking area, hardworking people, blue collar, and just yeah. Because if you're not humble, you're going to get humbled. You know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was taught life will humble you. And so in getting back to the football, like I said, there's a lot of opportunity to do well, but more importantly, just look at where you come from and where you're going, and just the support system and the people that laid the path, for me, that laid the path for you,
mm-hmm.
To go to the next level, to play, to get an education, and to do what you're doing today. I mean, that speaks volumes. And to have me on, like I said, it's very, very, very grateful for the opportunity. And
you're quite welcome, man.
And that's what, I know the older, he's ranting, he's talking. I could, like I said, we could talk about this forever. But when you have the younger guys, you have the younger student athletes and guys, and also gals as well. And when they look like, hey, Chet Paulovecchio, this guy from Barringer, that guy from Verona, this mm-hmm. guy from Montclair, he went on to do this, he went on to do that. It's like, and why can't I do it? This guy went to Montclair State, he went to Kane, he was a great football player, and so the opportunities are there, they really are, and it's not a Roscoe, it's not a hold on, there you are. You don't always have to be the star. You don't always have to go to the Clemsons or stuff like that. It's going to that next level, creating the opportunity, working hard, being humble, and shaking hands. Just being just a stand-up person, looking people in the eye. For me, that speaks volumes. When I meet a young person who goes, wow, he says, this is a gentleman right here. This is it's a well-respected young lady, and that speaks volumes. And regardless of where you come from, your socioeconomic background, you learn to treat people the same, have respect for people of all walks of life. So that's what this county, that's what you're doing. That's what this represents.
Yeah.
And I think that, seeing people on Facebook and when they write things, and it's having the respect for each other, for someone you never heard of, but then you read, oh wow, that guy from 1965, he was a great player at Montclair or Scott or Eastside.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. Or but it's a humbling experience. I've had a lot of fun and continuing to have fun. I really do. It's a good time. It really is, and I like having an impact. Like I said, that young man, when we were out eating, my wife and I, he said that to me. That speaks volumes. That really does. That speaks. That really does. When I got the message, he heard it. He'll pass it on. Maybe maybe I told that story tonight. Maybe there's a young man in Montclair who might hear it. Maybe there's a young man in Shabazz up
somewhere, right.
West Orange, wherever. So that will speak. That's the reward. That right there, that means more to me than the All County and the All State and honorable mention this and that, and the accolades, and that, because that tells you who you are as a person. And that stuff I can't take to the grave, but who I am as a person one day, it's you can only take your, number one, there's no U-Haul following the hearse. Number two, it's who you are as a man. So you could have all the money in the world, but if you weren't a nice person, when they hear that guy John Alvarado, that guy was an idiot. But if they say, wow, he was a stand-up guy, I learned a lot from him. He was a nice man. He was that. That's how I judge people.
Well said.
Yeah. So, but listen, anytime you want to talk football, anything, recruiting or that kind of stuff. And I got a lot of, because I could tell you the recruiting game is not what it was. Listen, when I played, and I'm sure when you played, when a kid was going to Penn State, and it's not a knock to these kids, everybody's about the offers. And I tell my youngest son, I says, listen, man, and I told the middle guy, I says, when football season's over, all that stuff, I says, you put it in the closet, it's going to collect dust. All right. Put it in you don't cut articles out anymore. You put it in the phone or your computer, wherever you put it. It's done. It's over with. Mm-hmm. A new chapter, a new book has to be written. And it's the title of the book is You Will Be Humbled. That's the title of the book. Because, everyone gets hung up. Oh, I want to go here. I want to go there. I gave advice to a mom one time, and her son, the mom was saying, oh, my son wants to go to Clemson. I says, for what? Well, he wants to play football. That's all right. I said, I know what he wants to do. I'm kind of being sarcastic. I said, can he play there? Well, if he doesn't go there, he's going to be upset. Well, if he can't play there, don't close the door for other opportunities, because you don't know what those doors are going to open up. I says, you can't have that tunnel vision. I says, you think about where your son where he is right now because of football, and he's a good student. Think about where he's going to go if he goes somewhere that he's going to have an opportunity to play football and to have a great experience. And, she says, yeah, you got a point. And I talked to him. He said, yeah, but this school, it's Division 2. So I don't care what division it is. If you can play at Clemson, God bless you. Okay, but if you can't play Clemson, and if you can if you're going to play football at Montclair State or Wofford or AIC, take it and run. Mm-hmm. Take the opportunity and go with it.
No, definitely, man. We could definitely link up again, just in regards to recruiting and everything else, man. I appreciate all of this. I really do, John. I really do, man.
I appreciate you taking the time out and speaking with me. And like I said, it's a pleasure. It really is. And there's nothing, especially from our stomping grounds, there's nothing more that I love to see when you see a kid. And there's a young man who just got drafted. I don't know his name. My son was telling me. Did he go to Barringer High School this past draft? I forgot his name.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And the young man who played at West Virginia, who the Eagles picked up. I forgot his name. I think Douglas is his last name.
Okay.
So when you hear stories like that, or you hear a kid going to Stanford, or you run into a kid or a dad, my son's going to go play. Oh, he's playing at Montclair State. Oh man, that's fantastic. He's like, you kind of had an impact, when he talked to you about going to Montclair, Coach G. And like I said, I guess I'm going to give props to MSU right now, Coach Palazzo, and they're doing a great job at Montclair State. They got a young coaching staff that really complements Coach G. Coach G, I was telling my wife today, I think he's like the top three. Him and Nick Saban have the most wins in any division of college football. So Coach G's doing a nice job over there. He's got a hell of a team. He's got some dudes over there. I know some kids grew up with my middle son. Mm-hmm. They're doing very well over at Montclair State. So he's doing some good things. Coach Garrett's doing some great things at Kane. And, but when you hear, like I said, I like hearing those stories about these homegrown, these Essex County boys going on, and more importantly, when they're done with football, going into coaching, going into whatever, law enforcement or becoming teachers and coaches themselves. And it's when you see them, there is you're like, oh, I remember you. Yeah, you used to coach at Shabazz. Or I remember you from the track. Remember me? Oh, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
So it's a good time, when you could go to, you had not only have the Essex County thing in common, but when you go to like a camp or a recruiting event and you see a guy, you're like, oh man, I remember you, man. That's right, you're from Belleville. Oh yeah, hey, oh, you were from Barringer. Oh, that's cool. All right, so it's pretty. And then with you doing what you're doing, it's like I said, I think it's great for Essex County football. I really, really do, and I think it's something that the kids can feed off of. I think the coaches can kind of share with the kids, or when they say hey, listen, this guy's from Belleville. Look what this guy did. You can do that.
Yeah.
That's a message I got to the Belleville players, and I told them, I said, listen, man, I said, a meathead like me can go to college and put his time and work hard, sit in the library for 7 hours and writing a paper, and go into the lab the next day and typing it. That taught me a lot of lessons. I did, number one, become a better typist,
yeah.
and try to find a girlfriend that's good at writing papers. That never happened. No, I didn't have much luck with the ladies,
But no, you got one now, man, and everything worked itself out, man. I just want to say, lastly, just like wish, and I should have said it right from the top, like wish you and your family all the best health in the world, and everything else too, with everything going on here. But let's definitely like keep in touch one way or another here.
Absolutely, yeah, and I can hit you up on Facebook, and like you said, especially with the upcoming season, things are going to be opening up, and it's and going forward. I know you're going to be doing this for a long time, and I'm always up to talk high school football.
Cool, appreciate it.
Especially Essex County football, and it's
absolutely.
But Evan, it's like I said, keep in touch, and God bless. And
likewise, John. Likewise.
Have a great Mother's Day.
Likewise, back at you. Thank you, man, and be well.
You're welcome. Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Take care now.
You
Bye-bye
too.
Now.
All right.
Thanks.
Great stuff. Like I said, I enjoyed, just hearing about John and just getting to hear his life, man. Like I said, this what some of this is all about here. I mean, the playing fields is all good and, dandy as far as accolades and what people have done and what have you. But just hearing folks being in good spirits, what have you, families, it's just good, man. And like I said, on this note, we're gonna ride out. Put my hand over my heart. That means I feel you. Yeah.